begin the meeting this evening of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here, please make sure that you've got your cell phones turned off. Any final action taken on a conditional use permit request will take effect 5 working days following the meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission decision is filed to the Planning Office by Monday, June 30th at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, July 5th at 9:15, and the meeting of the County Commission are also held in the same room. Any final action taken on a rezoning and a text amendment application tonight will be referred to the County Commission for a public hearing on Tuesday, July 22nd at 9:15. And again, those meetings are here in this room. At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. The minutes from the May 19th meeting are included as part of the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the Planning Commissions to the items listed in the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question.
Yep.
Item 5, you said you wanted to defer that?
No, let me look here. I would like, let's pull it off because we've had some more information come forth. We can discuss it tonight.
Well, then we certainly should, just based on what it's about.
Yeah. I got some information from DOT, so I was going to have it pulled when we got to that item.
Okay, so 5 is moving to the regular agenda. I'd also like to discuss 6, just a couple of questions about that. So 5 and 6.
I don't want to pull it off, but I've got a question on number 2.
Okay.
That I don't know why, to me that's ag, it's not a real rural development area. That it's my contention, we had one of these on the east side of Garrettson a couple of years ago, that why are we making these people get a conditional use permit for something that I think the building permit should just be good enough. This is not in a rural development.
Well, yeah. Our ordinance says if it's more than 5 subdivided lots in the area, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one would be the 5th.
I didn't see the
4 or more. This is the 5th
but
one.
they're not next to each other. It's not a plant, it's not a real, like I said, I just think we're overstepping on some of these ag areas, can get a conditional use permit that it should be allowed. It was like 2 years ago, we made one farmer get one when he was putting it on his own ag land, just because it happened to be next to other houses. So I just make that statement that I think we're overstepping our bounds on some of these.
The staff just takes note of that, but you don't have any objections?
No, I don't have
to
any
the approval,
objections. No,
Okay.
no.
Any other comments about the consent agenda? All right, next then, I will read each item on the consent agenda. If any member of the audience wants to object to the item, please raise your hand, and we'll move it to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just to be clear, though, if no one objects to it, then it goes on the consent agenda and it's approved without further discussion.
Right.
So we've already pulled a couple of items, but if these other items are of interest to any of you and you don't object to it now, then it's going to just blow by us here.
Right. So raise your hand as I read the item. The first one is the approval of minutes of the May 19th meeting. The second is a conditional use permit to exceed 1,200 square feet in total accessory building, requesting 3120, and that's on property located at 48229 253rd Street, and that's approximately 3 miles west of Garrettson. Okay. Item number 3 is a conditional use permit, 14-32, to transfer 2 building eligibilities, and that's located approximately 2 miles east of Hartford. Okay, so we've got a concern on item number 3. So that will move. Item number 4 is a conditional use permit, 14-33, to allow an automobile repair shop on the property that is located at 25404 475th Avenue, and that's approximately 6 miles north of Sioux Falls. Any objections here on that item? Item 5 we've already asked to be moved, and item 6 to the regular agenda, so we'll hear more about those later. So staff, the ones then that are on the consent agenda are?
3,
No.
5.
Two.
Oh, sorry.
1, 2.
Just 1 and
1, 2, and 4.
2.
1, 2, and 4.
Yeah,
1,
sorry.
2, and 4.
3, 5, and 6 have been pulled.
Correct.
I'll move approval. on
Second.
Any discussion on approval of consent agenda? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, staff, can we, I guess, David, you're up on item number 3, if you tell us about that.
Good evening, Commission. David Heinold, Planning Department. We received a conditional use permit application. This is about 1 mile east of Hartford. It's kind of on the edge, right by I-90 and Highway 38, right here, as you can see at the corner. The proposed transfer of eligibilities, it's 2 eligibilities from the southwest of this area and the northwest to an area that's just off of Highway 38 service road, which is, I believe it's 466th Avenue. It just comes off of 38, just north of I-90. On May 27th, staff contacted the City of Hartford, and the Planning and Zoning Commission did not foresee any issues with the proposed transfer of the 2 building eligibilities. I'll just go through some criteria that we take into consideration with the transfer of building eligibility and with any conditional use permit application. The effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the other uses already permitted and upon property values in the immediate vicinity. A right to farm notice covenant should be required to notify potential buyers about the realities of located in an agricultural area, which, as you can see, this area is just from a couple pictures that I have. The area just south of 90 would remain agricultural production, and the area up here is more pasture land that's north of I-90, Highway 38. Number 2, the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The transfer of building eligibility will not increase the number of dwelling units that are allowed in this section, which is another requirement in regards to density zoning, which falls in line with the comprehensive development plan that was passed in 1998. The utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities are provided. The applicant it will result in the construction of a single-family dwelling off of a driveway off of 466th Avenue, or most commonly known as the I-90 service road from the Department of Transportation. The applicant has obtained approval from the South Dakota Department of Transportation to change the access approach from the I-90 service road to 466th Avenue. But the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The off-street parking requirements will be accounted for once a single-family dwelling is constructed on the subject property. The measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. The proposed conditional use for the transfer of building eligibility, since given that it would be mainly a single-family residence that would be constructed with the 2 transfers of the building eligibilities, that it shouldn't cause any odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibrations, or lighting in a way that would otherwise constitute a public nuisance. So staff finds that the transfer of the 2 building eligibilities is consistent with density zoning, since it wouldn't increase the number of dwelling units allowed in this section. So staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 14-32 with the following conditions: that the lots shall be platted and a right to farm notice covenant shall be placed on the deeds prior to issuance of the building permit. And since the applicant has already obtained approval from the South Dakota Department of Transportation, that wouldn't need to be a condition, since they already have that. So if you have any questions, I'll answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any questions, staff? I should have mentioned, if any of you were here for items 2 or 4, it was approved as part of the consent agenda. You're free to leave but you're also welcome to stay for the fun, too. So. All right, no questions for staff. Is the applicant here on item number 3?
Yes.
Would you come forward, state your name and address for the record, and if you have any comments, or we'd like to hear.
My name is Malcolm Moline. We live at 26017 466th Avenue, which is just northeast of where this application is from. We have 6 eligibilities, 4 on the south end of the interstate, and 2 left on the north side, but they're not right where this area is being used, and I just like to move 2 up. I only have 1 sold. They put off is buying it, and the other one I just had some people asking about it. We've made no deals, but I just like to move 2 up.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Members of the audience would like to please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Lee Gose. I live 46629 Benton Street, and then we also own the RV dealership that's right at the end of the service road, actually.
Okay.
I don't know if you want the address on that.
Sure.
26036 466th Avenue.
Okay.
It's Gose RV.
Yep.
And one thing that wasn't noted is just a few years ago, there was approved Merlin Royce was a large gravel pit
Yes.
right at the end of that service road. You can come any given day in the summer, and there is 3-4 trucks nonstop on the service road at one time. So I know because we're right next to it. Yeah. Between the high truck, you got that. You got ZCI's, another gravel company that is right up the road that uses that quite frequently. And then I work late because we're a family-run dealership, and Molene's has trucks running 24 hours a day. I mean, midnight every single day, 7 days a week. There's a truck sitting at their place running. But I mean, the high truck traffic on that road already, we weren't allowed to do anything. We tried buying cement land from the state before, and they said that they weren't sure what they're doing with the interstate ramp, is what they told us, and they're going to try to redo the interstate ramp. So, I mean, we could use it also or do something different with our dealership, but we're not even allowed to use right out front on that service road. We're not even supposed to park RVs out there. So I was just trying to, like I said, it's a lot of truck traffic. It's a 3 commercial businesses using that road nonstop. 4 if you count Molene's, but they're agricultural, so they run right out of their house. They're a trucking company. Yeah, because the only way on and off this access is off the service road. I take it because it's not on 466, which I would see not being any problem. But you're moving your 2 eligibilities right off the service road. That service road is right next to the interstate ramp. You're making because you guys, it's kind of a commercial development right now, so to say. And then you put 2 residential houses. I mean, if you have small children, even with the large truck traffic, how does that work, safety-wise? And that picture, if you look at the road in that picture, it's all busted up just from the trucks, which it wasn't even a couple years ago. But all up and down this Blacktop Drive is busted up.
Yeah, I recall when you came in, I think you were in front of the planning commissioner, your business was sometime back.
I was, yeah. Because Merlin Royce is big. I mean, they do a good job,
Yeah.
granted, but there's a lot of truck traffic. They sell a lot of gravel, and they have a ton of trucks.
So what I'm hearing is your concern is for the applicants, potential buyers of this, interacting with that heavy traffic.
Well, like you mentioned, yeah, right to farm covenants, but I mean, is a person going to know? As far as, especially depending on, in the winter, you're not going to know it.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it wouldn't be allowed anywhere else. I've never seen a commercial business like that until it's done, like I said, where you're adding building eligibilities is something that you guys just a few years ago. And they have an asphalt plant there last year.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if you look at Molene's, I got to put up with at least half a dozen times a year where you can't even see in our place for smoke because they burn, I have no idea what, but you can't even see. The whole place looks, like I said, it looks like our place is on fire. So, like I said, and that's at least half a dozen times a year.
Any commissioners have any questions?
Like I said, I didn't bring you pictures, I guess, but
I guess the comment might be more of a question for staff. Doesn't the DOT, his worry is the access off the service road, and aren't what they doing with this is changing the access from the service road to 466, so they won't be coming off the service road.
there's no way to get to service road is the only way to 466. There is no other way. 466 used to go straight across when there was no interstate, and the only way to 466 is a service road.
Yeah, but their access to the eligibilities will now be.
You can't come off of 466 unless you came through Molene's front yard.
Apparently, that's what they must be doing because.
No, right on your drawing, if you look.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying is you're coming actually right off a service road. I've never seen an interstate service road in my life with housing eligibilities right off
But we're looking at a DOT letter that says,
But it's,
giving them permission to change it from the service road to 466.
well, it's called, you mean changing the name? The name is 466, it always has
No,
been.
changing their access to this property.
Yeah, then you'll have a quarter-mile driveway coming up to actually get off 466. If you see the picture right, can you see the picture?
Yeah, it's right below you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can see it up there.
You'll see the south side there, the curved road.
Mhm.
That's a service road all the way up. That's the service road, blacktop service road, all the way up to where it starts going north. And after you get north, up around that corner, it's blacktop right up around the corner, because that first drive that you see on the north of, that's the dealership, is the entrance from Merlin Royce.
But I think
That's,
they're planning on putting their driveway in here, right here.
Right. That's what I'm saying, which is the service road, that's not 466. The driveway's right off of Highway 38 on the service road, right next to the interstate ramp. The only other way to put a driveway would be get rid of their,
Well, to
The
me,
field
it's-
is-
you know, Mr. Chairman, to me, that's irrelevant,
Yeah.
because for all practical purposes, the service road is 466.
right, that's what I said, it's called
You'd rather have
466.
them have the driveway on the paved area than you would over on the township area.
No, if you're in the township area, you wouldn't have any of the truck traffic, is what I was saying.
This is called 466.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is.
yep. It says 466 on the
I
left
don't see a
side.
problem with it myself.
Well, technically, we're not really approving.
No, we're
the
just approving the moving of the
access.
eligibilities, that all has to be done.
No, I know, but like I said, we had to rezone our place just to sell RVs.
Correct.
Yeah.
You should have, yes.
Well, they run a business out of theirs that's zoned agricultural or residential. They run, I mean, and it's not just their trucks. How is that?
Then you better bring that up to someone.
Because say Merlin Royce had to, they had to get a conditional use permit also.
I talked to Mr. Moline. They've been operating that business since 1963, so it's grandfathered in.
For their trucks, so, right?
Yeah.
Right, but there's trucks that aren't theirs. So it doesn't, I'm not arguing, just saying. Yep,
Okay, anything else?
that was it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the audience would like to speak to this item?
I'd like to say something.
Yes, please come forward, state your name and address.
I think everybody here should thank the Moline family.
You have to introduce yourself, Russ.
The Moline family owned this property since the late 1800s. The interstate went through because of the Molines.
Name and address for the record.
Introduce yourself.
Sorry, I'm Russ Weber. I'm from Hartford, South Dakota. This Moline family has been there longer than the interstates have been there. This service road that we're talking about, if we're going to take and cut off people's rights to get to their property, then how is Mr. Goose going to get to his property? And Mr. Goose, if you kindly remember, if it wasn't for the Moline family, you wouldn't even have rural water, because we gave the right for the people to come to our property to give you rural water.
You just crossed the state, $500,000 account.
Whatever.
Let's keep the comments directed towards the Planning Commission. Anyone else? All right, hearing no additional testimony.
Mr. Chairman, this is a perfectly normal transaction here. I move approval.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second, a motion, and a second. Any further discussion to approve the transfer? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign, motion carries. Item is approved. Welcome. And we're going to move on to item number 5. Scott, I think that's yours.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay. I 5 is a rezoning request, 14-5, to rezone approximately 17 acres to C commercial and R1 residential. The property is located about 3/8 of a mile to a half a mile north of the Renner Corner on 475th, which is also called Highway 115. It's the state highway that goes up to Del Rapids, also known as Cliff Avenue. The applicant has requested to rezone a portion of this 17-acre parcel to C commercial, about 4 acres, and the balance of that, of the 17 acres, would be rezoned to R1 residential. I did contact Renner Sanitary Sewer District. I talked to Ms. Peltier, who is the manager for this Renner Sanitary Sewer District, and she indicated that potentially they could hook up to the Renner Sanitary Sewer District. They would need to provide engineering data showing that they can hook up to the existing lift station, and that they would need to provide more detailed explanation of the uses that might occur in the commercial district, because that could affect the volume of water. But potentially they could be serviced by the Renner Sanitary Sewer District. This area is located in what we would call our transition area, which is an area that is noted as an area that is transitioning from an agricultural state to more of an urban area. This is often found in the fringes of our larger cities, like Sioux Falls and Brandon. It's also found around Del Rapids. It's an area that is no longer, or is best suited to more suburban settings, not more heavy industrial or heavy agricultural uses. There are a number of homes in this area, as you can see from the aerial photography. There's about 50 homes. In my recommendation, I recommended continuing this because at the time that I wrote this, DOT had not provided me, or were not able to go out there and measure the site distance. I went out on the property in June, and I had serious concerns about the site distance to the north, because there's a small knoll, a rise there. And as you come over that rise, my concern was if there was a car making a left-hand turn into the proposed subdivision, into this subdivision where it says future road, that there could be stacking problems. And so I asked DOT to go out there and measure it and give me an evaluation of the site distance. I got an email back from Brooke White, not Brooke Shields. That would have been cool. I got an email back from Brooke White, and she indicated that there was 800 feet of site distance to the north, and which does meet the stopping site distance requirement that the state would like to see. So I indicated that I would pass that information on to you tonight, and that we could discuss the rezoning request other than continuation, because I know we do have a lot of members here from the general public that have come to hear this tonight. So that being the case, that with that fact that it is in the transition area, it is able to be provided sanitary sewer with the proper engineering. My recommendation would be to approve the rezoning to R1. However, I'm not going to support, my recommendation to you is not to rezone the property to C commercial. I feel that given the area with the number of homes there, that it's not an appropriate area for the commercial use. And so that is going to be my recommendation to you. I'll be glad to show you the pictures. It's basically a 17 acre field. This is looking to the south from where the approach is, the access road, and you can see that there's good site distance to the north. This is looking to the south. This is looking to the north, and you can see that knoll that I was concerned about to the north. And that, from where I'm standing, is the location of the proposed road. It's 800 feet of site distance to the north. The traveling public there, they have slowing signs, and they ask the public to slow down to 55 at this point, because it's normally 65 on that road. And then when you get closer to Renner, I think it's even 45. So they do have some warning signs there for speed. This is what's on the property. There's a couple of accessory buildings. There's no dwelling unit there at this time. These are some kind of old accessory buildings. This is the proposed road. You can see the trees and whatnot. It's an open field. So I'll be glad to go back, and you can see the number of homes that are there. Just to give everyone an idea of where we are. This is Renner Corner. This is the location of the closest commercial zoning is right here. This is all zoned commercial. Here's the Renner store, the Safari Bar, there's that strip mall or whatever that's right here. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Yes.
So, Scott, is there a rule of thumb or something with our ordinances regarding commercial use? Does it need to be at the intersection of two major roads?
Well, ideally, we have areas that areas identified in our comprehensive plan that are specifically what we call rural service areas. Those rural service areas can be areas that are not intersections. For example, Rowena or Lyons. Those are rural service areas. The other criteria that we typically follow is at the intersection of two paved highways. And this is a county highway here, 258. I'm not sure what, the Renner Road. And this is a state highway. So it is near the intersection. From this point here, the quarter mile line is right, I believe, here. That would be the half mile. I'm sorry, this is the half mile line.
Scott, I have a question about your recommendation. So you're not recommending approval on the commercial, but you are saying yes to the residential. The residential, as it's shown in that diagram, or are you suggesting also that the commercial, just that the whole thing go residential?
Well, that's for the applicant. I mean, that's what we're going to hammer out tonight. I mean, if you so decide to proceed ahead with the commercial, then you may desire to rezone it as the applicant submitted. You could rezone what they have. You could rezone the whole thing to R1 residential. You could leave this ag.
I was just trying to get clarity to your recommendation.
My recommendation, I don't think it's suitable for commercial.
Got it.
I think it is suitable for residential development.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Scott, I have a question on because I look at it, I agree with your commercial, non-commercial, because it's more than a quarter mile from the corner, which normally you'd expect commercial. However, in your thing, you said they may potentially have access to the sanitary sewer system. Now, in the zoning aspect of this, as far as I'm concerned, that's a requirement. It's not just otherwise. What we're doing technically is giving this guy 12 eligibilities at $50,000 a piece, or $500,000 worth of eligibilities for doing what? For increasing the density in that area without any services. And that's what we did in the 60s and 70s, and we don't do that anymore.
I understand. It is located within the sanitary sewer district boundaries. So they would be precluded from you could rezone this, they would be precluded, as I understand it, from installing septic systems. If you're in the sanitary sewer district, you are precluded from putting in a septic system. So if we rezoned this, and there's several ifs here, and I hate to operate under ifs, but if you rezoned it, and if they were not able to provide the engineering data to show that they're able to hook up to the sewer district, they would not be granted permits to put in a septic system.
Like I said, we've kind of, I've been on this thing 12 years, but 10 years ago we decided we aren't expanding any of these old things that were thrown around the county, these housing developments, without any access to sanitary sewer districts anymore. Because if they want to do that, they need to be adding on to additional towns that are near them, and not just throwing something out in the country.
And the applicant has their engineer here, Mr. Eric Willitson, and you may want to address that question to him, because I think that he may have some engineering data that he can share with you about the sewer district.
It looks like it is uphill. So.
Well, yeah, you can see from the picture that, I mean, there's some elevation changes there, but this isn't the edge of the sanitary sewer district. But it is in the sanitary sewer district, and it is in our transition area. So just those two items would lead me to, provide you the recommendation that we rezone it, because it is in an area that we have identified as a transition area.
But we can't, but you said that requirement is only there if it's in the sanitary sewer district currently, or adjacent to.
If it's in a sanitary sewer district, they are precluded from installing septic systems.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for Scott?
Maybe later.
Thank you, Scott. Is the applicant here and able to come forward and state your name and address? Comment on the recommendations?
Good evening. Eric Willardson, Willardson Lawn Engineering, 902 South Cleveland, Sioux Falls. Here tonight on behalf of the owners of the property, who are also here tonight with me, Carter Sadat and his wife. As Scott indicated, we purchased this property a couple of 2-3 years ago, and are looking to develop that into 17 acres, the 17 acres into 13 acres of rural residential, with utilizing that balanced 3 acres or 4 acres as a commercial zone, essentially trying to buffer that residential area from the highway. I guess I would refer to the staff report a little bit, and Scott is saying that he has no problem with the residential, and my understanding at the time was that he was having some issues with DOT and site distance, so we submitted a access change of use permit to DOT. While they have not approved it yet, they have visited the site and determined that a change of use, there is sufficient site distance in both directions to allow a change in use to what we are proposing. I guess I will mention right off the bat that yes, we are in the Renner Sewer District, and as being part of the Renner Sewer District, we are required to hook to that system. And so I have done the engineering. There's a manhole located on the east side of Highway 115, approximately 250 feet directly to the south, downhill. And we have done the calculations that would enable us to extend that sewer up the ditch, essentially, as where they want it. DOT won't let us put it in the road. And it would be able then to service these properties, and in the future also be extended further, because there's additional property to the north of us that's also in the sewer district that's not developed yet, but would be required to hook to that same system. And we would provide sewer capacity in the main line that would provide service for that property as well. I guess I would refer again to Scott's report, and with all due respect, the comprehensive plan defines your transition areas as areas that are characterized by a mix of land use. Now, by a mix, it doesn't say specifically one thing or another, but it does preclude agricultural uses. This is not suitable for agricultural use in its size and proximity to the existing homes. Probably not a good fit in this location for some type of large multifamily type apartment complex or something that would generate far more traffic than potentially a commercial use. But I guess I would submit to you that there probably are commercial uses, and as Scott indicated, there's over 50 houses in the immediate area right now, more to be built on lots that have already been developed and not built on, and that, to me, the area almost begs for some additional services up there. They can be done right. There certainly are uses that would be compatible with this environment. I think if you start in Sioux Falls and start heading north on the highway, you'll find a number of commercial uses that are adjacent to existing rural residential properties. There's a transmission shop and storage units just outside of Sioux Falls, right across the street from brand new homes. Apparently that was compatible for that developer to build the homes across the street from that because it was there previously. The house is sold. Certainly the Renner Corner, the golf course, while it's a golf course, it's a commercial use, Northern Links, and that is several single-family houses surrounding that. You get to Renner and the Renner Corner and the Safari, as Scott had alluded to. There are a number of rural residences in that same proximity. So to say that this wouldn't be a good fit, I would agree. It would not be a good fit for all commercial uses or some commercial uses, but there certainly could be some, whether it be storage units for these, a garden shop, personal services, such as maybe a hair salon or a barber shop, a convenience store. There are some uses that could go here. And undoubtedly, if you so choose to support this, and it is zoned commercial, that almost any use that goes on here is going to come back before this board in the form of a conditional use permit with additional input from the neighborhood as to what that operation is going to be, what their hours of operation are going to be, what type of clientele it would serve, and those kind of things. So while we don't have a plan right now, I guess with that conditional use process that the county has in place, that certainly there is some compatible use to be used on the property, and I guess more importantly, it's Highway 115 between Sioux Falls and Del Rapids is starting to carry more and more traffic, and the possibility or of putting another residence right up that against that road and being able to sell it becomes problematic. So we're not asking for a huge, this is not a large big box retail site. It would be provide the buffer from the residential and also provide some additional services of some type to that property, which satisfies the mixed use which your comprehensive plan asks for in a transitional area. I guess with that, I did have a couple calls from neighbors that we sent out. I believe it was over 35 letters to adjacent property owners. Had 2 calls. One left a message and I returned the message, indicated to him what the plans were. He saw, obviously, this, told him it would be rural residential with a commercial strip along the highway. Left my number, he never called me back. The other one called, he's here tonight. He owns the Midway Service Center north at the Baltic Corner, or well, at Midway Corner, I guess it is. And he called and asked, what our intentions were, and to my knowledge anyway, and he may say something or wish to express something to you, but it didn't seem to me that he had any issues with another commercial development at this location. Other than that, I know there's other people here tonight that own property in the area. I guess I just want to reiterate to them that should this be zoned commercial, that more than likely, unless it's some kind of minimal commercial use that you don't require a conditional use permit for, they'll be back and have a chance to voice their opinion on whatever type of development that would be. But that certainly there are some compatible uses that happen next to residential, especially along major highways such as this. With that, I guess I'd answer any questions and then reserve the right to respond to maybe some other comments.
Commissioners? Yes.
Do you have a plan on like storm runoff or anything like that?
That certainly would be developed, and we are adjacent. The eastern edge of the property, there is a stream that runs through there, and certainly the property would be developed in accordance with design standards of engineering. If a detention pond is required, one would be provided.
If I may. So do you have any thoughts about expanding that street further to the east then?
We're certainly,
Because there is another development in a quarter mile to the east there, I think.
right now, I guess there are no plans to do that. I think ordinance may require that we at least provide that opportunity for an adjacent property owner to be able to connect to that. That would certainly be someone in the future's choice.
Would you have a road district to maintain the?
I think there would be a road district of these people, and probably include the commercial property to maintain. These would certainly be private roads, private streets, privately maintained. The county's, I'm sure, not going to do it, and wouldn't expect them to. So yes, there would be, when we get to that point, if we get to that point, I would anticipate that yes, there would be some kind of a private road district of these property owners that would maintain the streets and drainage in the development.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. So your frontage on the highway is, on this commercial property, proposed commercial property, 607 feet. What did you anticipate for access to that commercial property?
I don't anticipate that the DOT will allow us to have any other access directly onto the highway other than that future street that's depicted. So that any type of commercial development that would be in there would be limited to access to the south off that future street. If there was a request that came forward to further subdivide that into additional lots, certainly the county has the jurisdiction on the plats and could require an access permit prior to any replatting. But right now it would be all to the south on that future street with the one access point onto 115.
So are you indicating that your intention would be not to request additional access onto the highway?
Yes.
Okay, so that, we want to make sure that's in the minutes. And then staff has recommended that the commercial not be approved. And if I was a betting man and can read the tea leaves, I think that there's a good chance that the commercial would not be approved. So what would you like to have happen with that property that's currently A1 and is slated in your proposal to be commercial?
Well, it's certainly not well suited for ag. It's not going to get zoned industrial. I have no preconceived notions about that. I do believe you need some type of a buffer between the residential and the highway, and just for saleability. And to me, when your comprehensive plan
We've heard that portion of your comments already, so I was really asking about the hypothetical. If it's not commercial, it's, in your opinion?
unusable.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Anybody else? Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward and comment on this item? Please state your name and address if you do. Please come forward.
I'm Randy Fulper, 47497 Concord Avenue, which is right directly across from the property. I tried to get my property rezoned commercial a few years ago, and spot zoning was absolutely out of the question back then. Anyhow, that hill right there is bigger than a bigger problem than it seemed to be. I think everybody that lives on Concord Avenue to the west probably been rear-ended from people coming from the south. I think if you had to stop on that hill and go east, I think it would be a way, way bigger problem.
Okay.
Is Concord Avenue, excuse me, guys.
Go ahead, please.
Is Concord Avenue, that's the one that goes straight west,
Right,
right?
the short.
Just right there tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you say your name was Holfer?
Yep.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I heard it right.
Any questions for Mr. Hubbard? Thank you. Others? Yes, sir.
My name is Josh Zimmerman, live at 25778 475th Avenue. I believe the second picture, my family's house is actually pictured right. Okay. One more. Okay, stop. All right. My house, my family's house is, if you're looking south from the property, the house right there. I'm going to ask you guys, if you lived at a 50-yard line on a football field, and at one end you have the Renner Corner and the Safari, and at the other end you have this proposed property, which I think is kind of interesting. No one's brought up what his plans are, which is a meat slaughtering place for sheep and goats, which to my understanding he's already muscling in on the adjacent property to him regarding tapping into their sewer line, which would that be a problem for you guys in the future because it would overwhelm the system? So how I look upon it is he thinks you guys are just going to approve this and he's just going to go along with it. It stinks. Just yesterday, went on a walk with my mom and we watched a sheep get slaughtered. And I can throw a football field basically from the new road that Dean put in right behind us. So how I look upon it is he's willing to do whatever he wants without your guys' approval. And I'm completely opposed to it. It's deplete the value of our place, my neighbor's place, and if I have to protect it, I will. That's all I gotta say.
Any questions for Mr. Zimmerman? For Mr. Zimmerman's benefit and then the rest of the audience, the permitted uses, and staff, correct me if I'm wrong here on this, for commercial, if it was commercial, would be an office, a bank, financial institution, a group daycare, mortuary, indoor recreation facility, nursery or greenhouse, church, or antenna support structure. Anything other than that would need to come before this body again and have yet an additional hearing. So,
Like I said, that's what I've been told.
Would not, and so that's why I just wanted to bring that up. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience?
I'm Dorita Schultz. I live at 25757 475th Avenue. And if you would, Scott, put that picture up of the knoll.
That?
I live at the top of that knoll. And when he says that traffic slows down to 55 miles an hour, I'd like to know when that happens. And so for all these people to pull off coming from either direction, it'd be horrible, horrible. And as far as the buffer goes, they have a nice stand of trees along that property. That if they just left that would be the buffer so that they could have the houses back behind it. That stand of trees, I'd hate to see it go. Because nobody likes to, cut down nice healthy trees. And it's there already, the buffer that he needs. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to this item? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
My name is Richard Sorum, 25787 Lindale Road, Renner. A couple of things here. I may be a little bit behind the times, but I have a copy of the Renner Sanitary District boundaries at home, and there's a couple of people here that maybe help me too on this. According to the boundaries I have, they are not in the district. Now maybe I've been on that board for 30 years, but maybe they have annexed that at a later time, or maybe what I have is incorrect. But I do think that that should be further researched. Just a simple thing. Another thing too is that my understanding that the Renner Sanitary District has about 40 hookups left, and that it seems to me that that board, if they haven't annexed them, or haven't annexed that area, it would be a mistake on their part, because if there's 40 left, there's probably 25 lots that haven't been used in that area that really should be used. However, I did see on the, which I'd like to see, and we just last year received in the mail from our district people that if they run out of, or you can no longer have any more hookups, that if that be the case, and you have this, I don't know what the county does anymore, but it used to be 1 acre, you can use a septic system or equal until it comes available that you can hook up to the sewer district. So I really would like that research fully, and that you folks be able to read that we received in the mail. Now, I don't know if it's permissible for me to ask this. A former board member here that I would have maybe Doug's, he could maybe voice his opinion. He was on the board probably, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 times this week. But he may be able to expound more on the actual district boundaries, whether that got changed. Because we started the thing in 1969, finally got out there in the 80s. But, so I'm not sure. And Gloria Hanson is here. She was our at that time, our office manager, or whatever. But I just want, I really hope that be researched thoroughly, so that if you think that you can hook up to the Renner Sanitary District and you can't, that would be very sad for these people that are trying to develop this. And I hope that all the T's are crossed. And, I think that's probably how I'll play out. I'll be happy to hear Mr. Wilson bring up about the creek over there, because one lot may not be of much use. Maybe two. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience? All right, I'll close the, yes, sir.
Members of the Commission, Commissioner Barth, I'm Darrell Moyer. I live at 25755 Lindbergh Avenue. I believe Scott mentioned that there was about 50 homes adjacent to this property, either on the east side or south side. I just did a real quick calculation here. I think there's probably potentially about something close to 100 if you count all the platted lots that are residential surrounding this commercial use area, proposed commercial use area. I guess I would ask that the board would take that into consideration, deny the request for commercial use. And as far as a commercial building being a buffer for these 10 new lots, what about the buffer that would be nice for the residents that already live there? Which the trees that are there serve a beautiful function for that. The site distance is on 115. I drive that road, I turn up on Northview Avenue, which is just right up here.
Right by my house.
Yeah, right by Dorita's house. I've had cars go in the ditch when I've been trying to turn left.
Yeah.
I've had cars go in the ditch when I go to work in the morning because they're coming over the hill so fast they can't see you. And I mean, if it's allowed to go to that, the traffic would have to get slowed down. And I don't know how you do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
My name is Dennis Hoffman, and I live approximately a block north of the property in question and just across the highway. To be a little bit more explicit, I'm right at the top of the knoll. I'm right next to Mr. and Mrs. Schultz's place. I have some knowledge of things that could affect this because I have been a board member of the Renner Sanitary District for slightly over 8.5 years. Now, I'm not speaking as a board member. I'm speaking as Dennis Hoffman, resident in the area. But some things that I am aware of. Whether a new development such as this could hook to the sanitary sewer is somewhat problematic. The sewer district code says that any residence within 200 feet of a sewer line must hook into the sanitary sewer system. If you're within that 200-foot area, you cannot have an outhouse, you cannot have a septic system. A lot of this right now must meet with the approval of the city of Sioux Falls. So this is going to have to be a kind of a handshaking thing between the county and the city. The city has to approve the permits because Renner Sanitary pumps their waste into the city of Sioux Falls treatment plant. The city of Sioux Falls right now is in the process of developing a regionalization plan. And it's up to engineering to decide whether the existing facilities at Renner Sewer District can handle additional load. And yes, there are permits, building permits available, but it's on a first come, first served basis. Another thing I would question is the water availability on this property in question. Because I don't know if there is water available there to serve 10 lots, 10 houses. And there was, and I cannot speak for sure, but there was a moratorium placed by Minnehaha Rural Water on new hookups. So that is another thing to take into consideration. Can these, if these lots are developed, are they going to have water available? Yes, the traffic problem is a problem. Coming up and going over that knoll. The semis crank on their Jake brakes and it's just like rolling thunder. But yeah, there is definitely a traffic problem there. So something I think that the commission should take into consideration. That and consider that the county and the city, Renner Sanitary District, and the property owner all have to cooperate with a handshake. Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once? All right, I'm going to close the floor to testimony and ask the commissioners to exchange your words.
Mr. Chairman, I would thank you, Mr. Hoffman. That was interesting. I didn't realize Renner sewer get pumped to Sioux Falls, which makes a lot of sense. Why maintain ponds when you can just pump to Sioux Falls? But to me, for this to be approved, that has to be a no holds barred, it will happen type of deal for us to zone this residential. Otherwise, we shouldn't approve it, in my opinion. So they've got some research to do there. You have to make absolutely sure that that can be done. That's how I would.
Mr. Chairman, just in regards to Mike's comments there, I agree, it should be, a part of the deal, but, we just approved the Sorum addition a few months back, and there was no discussion about sewer hookups.
That was all done with eligibilities, which is a totally different situation.
But they're not going to have septic tanks. And the water hookups was not an issue either. And I do think that all of that has to be an issue. That traffic thing to me is, I think this is going to be a 4-lane highway. There'll probably be a McDonald's and a pawn shop and a movie theater and everything all the way to Del Rapids before the end of this century.
Jeez Louise. Another 85, 46 years, 86 years?
Well, in 1870, Chicago had 100,000 people. In 1970, they had 3.5 million. Okay? We might have Renner population 40,000 people by the end of the century.
As long as they're out of the floodplain, we'll be all right.
That's true.
Let's make sure we catch that in the minutes.
Lake Renner. But, we need to think about this traffic situation. And, do we need a turn lane? Do we need, I personally think the speed limit is probably too high. And having driven it myself, and it's always nice to pull out on the highway and have a dump truck on your tail immediately.
Say I've got one. Any questions, folks?
Staff recommendation is what, referral?
My original recommendation was to continue it until we got something definite from DOT, but we did get that. They're saying their site distance there, 800 feet. But if you want to get something definite from Renner Sanitary Sewer District, then that you can. You have a lot of options.
That would be my wish, I think, to make sure we had those things, and I think to, additionally look at that traffic situation. I wonder, if we need a turn lane, I'd like to bounce it off the county highway department.
I can ask a representative to attend the meeting from DOT if you want. I don't know if they'll show up. They've indicated they have site distance there.
I would move we defer this till next meeting.
Second.
Appropriate motion to get answers regarding the sewer district number 1. And secondly, Commissioner Board is concerned about the traffic, which is a concern.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to defer for 1 month with the intent of staff helping us get some additional information.
Just make sure we clarify to everyone it's July 28th is the meeting. We'll defer to July 28th.
Yeah, the motion, if it's passed, will defer this action on this item until July 28th.
If I might just make a couple more comments. One is that, this is an unincorporated area. This area has more people in it than the incorporated town of Sherman, South Dakota. And that same thing is true a mile north or whatever it is is it the Johnson addition or Peterson, whatever. I mean, there are a lot of people who live along this road. And it's only getting more crowded all the time. If we have a few places like that, Lyons and Rowena, Ellis, Wall Lake, it causes us additional trouble in that we're using county regulations to virtually rule what goes on in a town.
Yes.
And I think that's a sad deal. And that's the advantage of being annexed, is once you're in a city, you do have more regulation, not that everybody wants it. I also would say that 65 miles an hour is pretty scary on Highway 229 for big chunks of it, and 65 miles an hour on this road is a hazard.
Any other comments, discussion on the item? Then I will call the question, a motion to defer until July 28th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. So this item will be deferred to July 28th, and there will be a hearing in the same room at that time.
Mr. Chairman, David, what's that picture you have there?
Well, this is a picture that comes off of a mini map, which you can find us online, minnehahacounty.org. But the GIS department created a map based off of these areas, and this is for the rezoning item.
What are all those boxes?
Parcels.
So if you click on this one, these are parcels. This pulls it straight from the parcel data. You can find the acres.
That is on the website.
So we have the ability now to interact live with our mapping. So that's what this is for you.
Great.
So we can move things around and look and pull up property owners for you and in the meeting.
All right. Mr. Zimmerman, really quickly, because we've got other items, is there something that,
Will that make them stop what they're practicing on the land now?
if there's an enforcement issue, maybe you should talk to staff after the meeting?
Okay.
I don't know what it is. All right, so let's move on to item number 6, please.
Item number 6 is the zoning text amendment, 1402. This is to amend sections 304, 604, 704, 804, 904, 1204, 5, and 2602. You may recall from our last month's meeting that we had this discussion on solar energy conversion systems. Basically, this mimics what we approved at the city level, adding it as a conditional use in several other districts that we didn't include in the city. For example, the light industrial, I1, I2, the C commercial, the A1, and then it creates a definition for solar energy conversion systems, and then adds it into Article 12, which is additional uses, regulations, creating a new Article 15-19, I believe, for 1205, which is the solar energy systems regarding conversion systems, and then it outlines how we handle those.
Yep. And I'm the one that asked to get moved onto here, so maybe I can save us some time.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find the definition here now, and I'm striking out.
Solar or what?
Should be the last thing.
Should be the last thing, right? That's what I thought. Solar energy conservation system, any mechanism or device, it was just one sentence, designed for the purpose of converting solar energy into electrical or mechanical power. So if you're using one of those, then you have to come in for conditional use. Is that correct?
Commercially, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have them on your house, it's not.
Oh, so how does it indicate then as for commercial use?
Well, I think if you look in the because it wouldn't meet the requirements of there is no interconnectage, I don't believe, but typically it's just not it's not a requirement for a commercial or residential use. It's
So is
just,
it
it's just an accessory.
section 6, subsection 2? Is that what you're hunting for, Scott?
Let's look here.
The commercial?
Yeah, commercial.
Where's it at?
It'd be like the third page,
Okay.
section 2A, where it says commercial SEC, commercial solar energy conversion systems shall be permitted. So there, if it's a non-commercial, it's allowed. It's just considered an accessory to the residential use.
It's under section 6,
Right here.
subsection 2. Way towards the front of the
Commercial.
Okay, so all right. So this whole thing is related only to commercial.
To commercial.
We already have residential people putting in solar units.
Oh, yeah, tons.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I just bought a solar-powered roof vent, so by the definition of what one of these items is, and the very last is, I've got something that's converting sun energy to electrical. The other concern I have is, yeah, right? Well, it would be the way I was concerned about it. The other thing is you know, you just might be seeing more of these than you want, because I'm looking into, with my motel in Murdo, just putting solar panels on the roof and selling to the power company, right? But it's on the roof, and you know, there should be. I'm thinking there should be some permitted things. We're just going to have lots of conditional use permits, I think.
Well, we can change it though if it does get to that point where.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if the PUC how they do it these days with that stuff. Whether the power company has to accept it from you if you're
you're in the early stages of looking into it, yeah. And my understanding is they do. Yep.
But it's not for commercial generation, and that's the intent of this ordinance. That would still be accessory to your hotel, for example. It would be
Okay.
accessory to your hotel. Your principal use is a hotel.
Yep.
Because if that was in a city, then they may have some requirements as far as what it has to look like.
And my only reason, I'm really not trying to argue, I'm just trying to make sure that we got it going. So if the intent is only if it's for commercial
Electrical generation.
electrical generation, not ancillary to the primary use.
Exactly.
How does it, is it stated in here?
Well, it would be, it's maybe not stated directly, it's probably more implied, because as Commissioner Even indicated, under 6, under Article 6, it says commercial, which then would imply that it's for commercial generation of electricity.
It says commercial SECs shall be permitted only on lands, but it doesn't really say, because then you later on you define what a commercial one, or what these solar energies are, and it's any device. It doesn't, by omission, because it doesn't speak to ag, doesn't speak to residential. Are those then naturally permitted?
They're just permitted as an accessory to the
Because
use,
it's not
principal
addressed.
use.
So,
Okay.
Chairman,
I'm sorry, I'm not an attorney. So.
as we read this, under Section 6, the amendment to Article 12, it defines commercial solar energy systems hereinafter referred to as SECS. And then the section you're looking at is Section 7, uses the definition of SECS. So thereby that's implied that only refers to commercial. That would be my reading.
Okay. All right.
It's not my intent.
No, I didn't
it's
think
not
it
our
was. I
intent
didn't think it
to-
was. I'm just trying to make sure that we ended up with a wording that.
Because I don't want to be
Your
swamped
intent.
with conditional use permits for someone that wants to put a solar panel to generate water for heat their pool.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me just complain for a moment that there's a tax exemption, a property tax exemption for people that put in solar things for property. And we had a very irate citizen call us about it, very, very irate. He didn't get his tax break he was entitled to. And after like 3 weeks of research, we found out he never got a building permit, so we never knew that he put this thing in. But he was insisting that, you know, we were sticking it to him by not giving him the tax break.
So there's
he was
a
entitled
property
to.
tax break.
Yeah.
Is that statewide or is that?
I think it's statewide because I don't think we would put it in.
Wow, I was thinking of that part.
We need every cent we can get.
It just gets better and better.
It just gets better. You're good. Wow. Let's keep talking. 5 minutes more.
I mean, a research on this is maybe you put a kilowatt hour range on them or something. You know, above that it's commercial, below that it's,
We'll know that when we see it.
you know, or a watt, you know.
The one project that you had a picture of clearly was commercial.
Yeah, that's like 1.5 megawatts.
And it looked great for pheasant production and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed last month.
So our recommendation is approval. And
Do we need to approve it?
you pulled it off the agenda, so you need to
We can
approve.
certainly amend it in the future.
You can. If there's a problem, we can.
I make a motion to approve the recommended amendment.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the recommended amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And motion carries. There you go.
Okay.
And is there some new old business here?
There's some, not any old business. I have a couple of new business items. The first one is a discussion of a building permit moratorium in Brower Edition. And
It got killed off in my absence.
it did get killed off, but I did have our new staff planner, Kevin, who I'm going to introduce you shortly, did some research and prepared a possible resolution that you may want to consider. And I did forward this on to the county commission last week and to the state's attorney's office. And the county commission didn't really like the idea on Tuesday's meeting. And we discussed this with the appeal of Mr. Schoenfelder's conditional use permit for mini storage units at Brower Edition. That went to the county commission last Tuesday, and they upheld your decision to approve the storage units. So I don't think that we had some discussion of this at last Tuesday's county commission meeting. They really feel it's the road district's responsibility to step up. They have 2 road districts there that actually should take responsibility and do the work that's needed out there. And that this is really maybe penalizing people that it shouldn't penalize, and that it really should be the road district that moves ahead. So, but it's here for your review. If you want to discuss it.
Did you run this by state's attorney?
Yep.
Yeah, I did.
That's where it says whereas.
That's where the whereas is. And they get $500 out of that.
Well, isn't it the road districts that are in the court case? I mean, it's
Yeah,
not,
it is.
You know, that's, you know, and I think that's one thing, and maybe, you know, not speaking for the county, but, you know, I don't think we should be getting into something like this while the courts are dealing with it. You know.
One thing they bring it up out there, but you know, just look at the bigger picture. These guys all had lots out there because they were cheap. So what do you got? You had a cheap road system for cheap lots. Is what you got, and all they would have had to do is drain the water to the west culvert and send it down there, and it would have eliminated 80% of their problems. But no, they didn't. They, you know, coagulates right there in the.
Yeah, the farmer to the south there doesn't want it to go in their ditch there to the west.
He would have had a choice. It's a public.
It washes
drainage
out his driveway if they actually unleash it on him.
Well, that's because he's got his dam down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Well,
dam.
there's 2 dams actually there, Johnson. So, yeah.
Well, the whole subdivision there acts as a dam for water coming off of Highway 90.
Yeah.
But it's something you have to consider. Do you allow any more? This is actually appropriate.
Right, I mean, we're having fuel trucks drive in there, dumping off their load, and then delivery trucks heading out from there. It's going to be rough.
Well, I guess
You bring up a valid point, but if it's under in the courts, you have to do that.
It is. It's been in there for 2 or 3 years. They've been battling it out.
I think we'd be setting ourselves up for a lawsuit if we did this, because when you're not issuing building permits, it's almost like a taking of the land.
Well, if you read this, the way it's set up is that they could come to the county commission and plead their case.
Yeah,
And
Section 3 is a safety valve.
yeah, and then what happens is everyone goes to the county commission, and I had this happen in Rapid City, and they never say no. So
That's what happened last Tuesday.
Is that,
So then you've adopted something that you throw out the window.
On the other hand, we have, in effect, free attorneys. We have to raise taxes to pay for legal costs. That's what we have to do.
Well, I can just let you read it, and you can think about it. If you want to have it on the agenda again, let me know. If you want to take action on it, but
I think it's moved after the approval last week. It's not going to go anywhere with the county commission. So I think that we just have to keep encouraging them to put down their legal arms and settle this in a civilized manner and fix those stupid roads. And in the meantime, I recommend not driving there because you could break an axle.
okay. Yes.
okay. The next item is I'm going to introduce my new planner, Kevin Hookman. He started 2 weeks ago.
Hi, Kevin.
Kevin, why don't you go up and introduce yourself? He's recently graduated or graduating from SDSU, and he's from this area. So introduce yourself, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Hookman. As you said, I am in the process of getting my thesis approved and defending my graduate studies at SDSU for geography. My undergrad is in landscape architecture. I've been living in Del Rapids for about 5 years, and I've grown up in just north of Sioux Falls, Church Run exit area. So I've been here my whole life, I guess.
And you worked last year for the city of Sioux Falls as their intern, so he's worked for the city last year.
What do you think about Highway 150?
That's what I was going to ask.
He drives it every day up to Del Rapids.
I'll tell you that come about the turns right before a runner there, I'm generally slowed down to about 61, and there's people way backed up behind me because I don't like those turns at 65. They're not built for it. So, that's my opinion.
Well, we have had a couple fatal accidents on that road just in the last year as well.
Mm-hmm. I didn't like the commercial thing there. Yeah. I kind of like the privacy pictures of the natural trees.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Yeah, glad to have you.